Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another game of TA Escalation. Guys, this time we are doing a 4v4 on the map Deox Hell on Earth 2. But to hold that thought, guys, before I introduce the players, we're going to jump right into this 3-minute bombing run by Stag Jr. Quite impressive to get a bomber out this early. And he is going to fail to get these 2 metal extractors, but he will take out 4 wind generators there. And let's see what else he can get. He will finish off this mechs, take out the defender, and get that mechs as well. So nice job there by Stag Jr. taking out, it looked like 3 mexes, 4 wind generators, defender, radar tower, and he's not done, guys. He is now coming down with yet another thunder for round 2 of this early game bombing harassment shenanigans. And he will finish off this mechs that he missed earlier. He will kill another couple there, and a third thunder coming down. So Stag Jr. putting on the pressure right now, early on in this game. Oh, I don't know what that was all about, guys. I don't know what the error sound was, but we're just going to ignore it. We are going to pretend that there are no errors. We are going to continue casting this replay. But yeah, guys, as I said, Stag doing some nice early game bombing. Really giving Pink quite a run for his money here. He's just been relentless. Another bomber coming in. Guys, we're not even 5 minutes into the game. And Stag has just been kind of styling all over Pink here. But I do need to introduce the players, and I will do so momentarily. But Mr. Stag is not done with his early game bombing aggression. He does have another bomber coming out here. And we will see what else he can get. Slow it down. He's going to get that. He's going to get that mechs. He's going to get that mechs. Really nice line bombing here by Stag. Very well played. And just some nice daisy chaining there, killing like 6 mexes, 7 mexes with 1 bomber. Stag in this early game, in this 4v4, being so aggressive with these bombing runs, and really achieving a lot, at the very least being extremely annoying. 3 mechs is there. 4. No, he didn't quite get the 4th. But he's not done, guys. Stag is just... he is on a rampage in this early game with all these bombers to make his opponent's lives miserable. But guys, at this point, I think Stag is probably getting a little bit of a diminishing returns effect with all these bombing runs, because the Southern team is heavily investing in air defense now. And so, though he will kill another mechs, and we'll have to see what he wants to do with this thunder here. And still building him. I mean, I'm surprised that Stag is still investing in all this bombing. Because the Western team has really committed to the air defense plan now that they see that Stag is playing a very aggressive early bombing campaign. But guys, let's go ahead and introduce the players. I didn't get the chance to do so because of Stag's early pressure. But here at the we'll start with Orange first. 19 Angel, the Orange Corps commander. It might be hard to find these commanders. Green way up at the front. TPU Corps as well. Red Fez, of course, as Corps, and pink we have Shockwave. And here on the Eastern team we have Iberian, Yellow Corps, and light blue we have Deus Ex Machina, the light blue Corps. Of course, we have a Stag here in dark blue, and he has been on a rampage this game with his bombers. And finally, we have No Skills in dark green. So guys, now that I've introduced everyone, let's get into it. Of course, we already kind of have gotten into it. This has been a very action-packed 4v4 already with Stag's incredible airplay early on. Very nice raids. And guys, I will say that utilizing that airplay early on is it's pretty nice. Obviously, he didn't do any permanent damage to the Southern team. He didn't kill anybody, but he did take out quite a few mexes and caused the enemy team to build a ton of air defense, as you can see. And those little advantages can give your team a kind of an early game boost that can snowball into the mid game. So Stag really playing out of his mind here at the start, utilizing that early game air pressure to give his team an advantage. And but guys, this map is called Hell on Earth. It's interesting because you have these there's metal squares at various points of the map. Some here in the middle that generally both teams will try to fight for. And then there's some here at the top and bottom. The red is, of course, lava, so you cannot traverse the lava. That is not a legitimate strategy to traverse the lava, but you can, of course, fly air over. And there are also geos on these little islands in the lava. But either way, guys, I would give the Eastern team a bit of an advantage here early on just because of Stag's amazing airplay. And here we have a nice battle for the middle between Storms and Levelers. Of course, Storms are pretty good against Levelers. They can kite them pretty well. If you can stay out of the Storm's range. If you can stay out of the Leveler's range with the Storms, you can kind of kite them into oblivion. It's always a really nice strategy to do things like that. But green already on T2, so pyros versus flashes. Not a very even matchup. Very lopsided, in fact, as pyros will quite literally just melt flashes into a puddle. But a lot of engagements here early on in this 4v4. And again, I expect the Eastern team to have an advantage after Stag's nice early game pressure and probably forcing the Western team to overcommit to air defense. Because I have to say that Stag in general, the blue player, you're going to have to watch him. He is an amazing team game player. I don't know what he's like in 1v1s, but I can tell you that in team games, Stag is incredibly powerful. If he was a DBZ character, then he would probably be someone like Super Saiyan Goku or something to that effect. Stag Jr. just seems to play incredibly well in this team games. Now, guys, one thing I will say is that Shockwave does disconnect early on in this replay, and that will affect, obviously, the Western team. But I think, luckily, Fez, let me speed it up a little bit, Fez is able to take most of his units, or most of his buildings. We will see that in the replay momentarily. So Fez will get Pink's units, and Shockwave is out of the game. But it is not a total loss because, again, Fez will take his base. But guys, right now it feels like the Eastern team has quite the advantage here. They're doing really well. And again, watch out for Stag. Watch for some more of that airplay. Stag, just in general, is very good in these team games. Again, I don't know how good he is in a 1v1, but he just seems to dominate these team games really well. So keep an eye out on for him in this game. And also Fez, of course, plays a lot of these team games as well. So I think Fez and Stag are going to be our kind of our star players in this game, and we will try to keep an eye on them. But man, look at all those warriors. Even these Reapers don't stand a chance. This many warriors, if they can get into that close range, are quite devastating indeed. But of course, Reapers are really strong early on, guys. I think I've said this before, but Reapers called the heavy riot tank for a reason. Extremely good against groups of T1. We'll slow it down here a little bit. Red, Fez doing a good job of staying out of the range of these warriors. Again, these warriors are a bit slow. The range is a bit limited. So a nice little fight here. And guys, in some ways the Zeus is just like a better warrior. Zeuses are similar to warriors in a lot of ways, and they're kind of an assault. Kind of a, like a heavier assault K-bot. But the Zeus has a little bit of a longer range. And more health, of course, and they do more damage. So the Zeus just kind of a better warrior. Of course, they're T2 and more expensive. So that does factor heavily into the equation here. But Fez building the right counters. Warriors... can't do much against Zeuses and Reapers, so that's going to be it's going to force Dark Green back a little bit, and the game will go into kind of a parity here. But Green with these Dominators, pretty nice choice too. The Dominators are simply going to outrange the Storms and do quite a bit more damage. Their missiles are obviously much more powerful and faster than the Storm missiles, and Fez continuing to push forward with this little control group of Zeuses and Reapers. So guys, let's go ahead and check out the bases. Remember, Pink did drop. Fez took over his stuff. Fez still on T2. As we saw before, Green pumping out T2 core K-bots. Doing a pretty good job with them as well. Guys, Dominators are very strong. Surprised we don't see more of them. They do have to be micro. They're kind of slow, but they have a good range here. And as long as you can stay out of the range of these Pyros, you can do a lot of damage. But now Fez moving through with this Reaper and Zeus group. Orange coming in as well. So the Western team with a very well-coordinated attack. And we need to see if the Eastern team can stop it here. Let's go ahead and see what our players are up to in the bases. Stag pumping out some Bulldogs. Bulldogs are a nice counter to what we see on the field for the most part. They can deal with Zeuses and Reapers quite well. And a yellow pumping out some Mortys, which is also a decent counter. The Mortys will be able to outrange all of this. So guys, TA Escalation is a game of counters. You need to build the right counters. And right now the Eastern team doing that. As you can see, Red's units struggling to get in range of their targets. They are, of course, taking out all the eco along the way, but Eastern team doing a decent job of trying not to engage these units directly. Zeus's and Reapers, kind of a sick combo, of course. You don't often see them together because Zeus's are arm and Reapers core. But it seems that this, at the very least, this farm of resource generators is about to go up in smoke. Red will get the happy birthday there. And deal quite a bit of economic damage there. So a very devastating push by the Western team. Very, very nicely timed. And it's still going. There's still more Zeuses and Dominators kind of showing up. So yeah, the Western team is definitely striking back. It seemed like the Eastern team had some pretty good, had a good advantage early on after Blue's nice bombing runs. But guys, in some ways it just feels like the Eastern team stopped producing units. That does tend to happen in these team games. Players start to feel that they don't need to produce units anymore, or they start to feel that building units is optional. They kind of rely on their teammates to build the units. And then if the enemy team builds an army and sends it at you and no one on your team's building units because everyone was being greedy and trying to eco up or tech up, sometimes you can just lose. And right now it kind of feels like that right now. The Western team, they built an army, and the Eastern team didn't seem to build much of anything, and now the Western team is punishing them for their greed. However, Yellow has built some gunships here. Those will come down and save the day. There's not a ton of air defense. There's a few Samsons, but of course Samson's not a great counter to rapiers. In general, gunships require more specialized counters, like flax or slingshots. I think Manticore is the name of the T2 anti-air K-bot in Escalation. So there are some counters to gunships, but Samson's not really the counter. And these gunships doing a great job of keeping the Eastern team in the game. There is just very little air defense to speak of. And these gunships, let's see, that one's got 2 kills. Between these gunships and the Bulldogs, I do think the Eastern team will be able to hold on for now. At Yellow, sending a fleet of construction aircraft down to the south to rebuild as quickly as possible. He really wants that, they really need to take that area back if they want to stay in this game. Certainly the Western team is going to have an economic advantage, given that they have so much more of the map. And guys, now we see this infamous Fido spam that I have mentioned in previous casts. Can be rather powerful in the right situation. But yeah, now that these rapiers have walked into flak, they will evaporate almost immediately. And who's building these Fidos? Dark Green's Fidos need to be microed. He needs to stay out of range of those Zeuses to get full effect here. So the Eastern team striking back, doing a great job of defending. they will hold off that first attack that looked like it could win the game. It certainly looked like the Western team was on the verge of just overrunning the Eastern team's base. But a nice kind of last-ditch effort defense with all these bulldogs and some rapiers coming out. We'll keep them in the game. But it's kind of a question of whether they can recover. Yellow doing the right thing. He's rebuilding very quickly. He's got a lot of construction aircraft down here. So they're not out of it yet. Guys, like I said, Stag Jr., very, very terrifying team game player. Just seems to make great decisions and sort of has very good instincts. So Bulldogs are, of course, great in this situation. They're countering most of what's here. Of course, Goliaths are decent against Bulldogs, but there's just, in terms of sheer numbers, there's just a lot more Bulldogs. If I had to give like a historical analogy, the Goliath would be like the German Tiger from World War II, or the Panther. Probably one of the strongest, best designed tanks in the war. And then Stag's Bulldogs are more like the American Shermans, which were, of course, not as powerful, not as well designed, perhaps, but there was just so many Shermans in World War II that they could simply overwhelm the German tanks, and that did happen quite a bit. There was so many Shermans that it just didn't really matter in some ways how strong the Tigers and the Panthers were, because they could just get overwhelmed by the Shermans and surrounded. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Stag has so many Bulldogs, and that is not really enough Goliaths to stop that. Let's go ahead and look at the player bases. Orange heading to T3. And I would think Fez would be too, but maybe Fez deciding to upgrade his eco a little bit more. Stag still on T2. And Dark Green just pumping out those Fidos. But guys, Stag is starting to use penetrators here, and penetrators are great in this situation. They can simply outrange anything on the field right now. The penetrator, in some ways, guys, is the pinnacle of T2 tech. Penetrators, when used correctly, just kind of become king of the battlefield. Of course, they're expensive, they're slow, and every shot they fire uses a ton of energy. So, Penetrator, of course, sort of king of T2, but also having a lot of weaknesses and considerations. But now, Deus Ex Machina attacking Red's little fortification here, but guys, attacking the Dragon's Teeth, probably a waste. Green lasers are not the best counter to Dragon's Teeth. Generally, you want ballistic weapons. And these Dragon's Teeth have given Red so much time. If those Dragon's Teeth had not been there, this whole base would already be gone, I think. So well-placed Dragon's Teeth, giving Fez enough time to respond to this attack. And Dark Green also trying to move through at the top with some Fidos, but just won't be enough. Sumos on the field here. Sumos are kind of the core in-game T2 unit. They are slow but unbelievably powerful. They have a really long range, and they do great damage, and they have a ton of health. So guys, sumos and penetrators are sort of the top tier T2, the end game T2 units. If how do I put this? If escalation did not have T3, so if escalation was pro TA, then you would probably see sumos and penetrators in these late game 4v4s. That's what you would see a lot of, because these are kind of the strongest units for the arm and the core at the T2 phase. However, the penetrators are a little better than the sumos because they can outrange the sumos. Of course, Stag wants to be careful here because once the sumos get in range of the penetrators, they will simply shred them. Oh my god. So yeah, Stag wants to use these. But guys, penetrators really are king of T2, man. At the T2 phase, penetrators over time will simply dominate the battlefield. But Fez here with a group of tigers. This is pretty terrifying to watch. Again, you don't usually see this composition because Zeus is arm and Goliath is core, but the Zeus-Goliath combination is quite a scary one to behold, and the Eastern team is going to have a tough time stopping this push. But again, these penetrators really worth their weight in gold here, I think. Just picking off those Goliaths from far out of their range. And Fez even has a Copperhead here for air defense. Of course, it's getting pretty low. But guys, I don't know if the Eastern team can stop this, at least before it takes all this stuff out. There's a few Vipers here. You don't want to underestimate the Vipers. Those are very, very strong T2 defense. And now that the air defense has been taken out, Yellow could come in with his gunships and probably clean up this attack. So now it's a question of how much can Fez get done before he dies. He will take out one Moho, but yeah, the Eastern team kind of barely pushing this off. And counterattacking a little bit here. There's quite a few Fidos. But guys, Sumos versus Bulldogs, that's pretty easy. But these penetrators here in the back are going to make all the difference. As long as Stag keeps microing them, of course. He doesn't want to be in range of these Goliaths. Let's go ahead and look here. 7 kills on that penetrator and 3 on the other. And sadly, both of those penetrators will die, but man, just the 2 of those did so much work against Red. It is nice to see those on the battlefield. Again, penetrator kind of king of T2. Really beats almost anything else in the game. Of course, once the game advances to T3, it is a much different story. And speaking of T3, Fez is now there with 2 of his commanders. He's got Shockwave's old commander, and of course he's got his commander, so he's got 2 commanders. Now pumping out T3 units. Let's go ahead and check out regular green here. He's building an Ultra K-Bot gantry. Orange still seem... Oh, yeah, orange has his own gantry, so everyone on the Western team is now advancing to T3. And they're pretty well defended with these sumos and Goliaths. It shouldn't be too difficult for them to get to T3. Guys, when your team advances to T3, you want to make sure you're well defended. You want to make sure that the enemy team isn't just going to kill you. But the Western team has done a great job here. They don't have a lot of... well, they do have some static defense here in this area. So they do have some static defense, but more importantly, they have the right unit composition to hold off the Eastern team until they can tech up to T3. And in that way, they seem way ahead of the Eastern team because I don't see anyone on the Eastern team that has reached T3 yet. So the Eastern team definitely behind on tech. It is the Western team's game to lose at this point. And let's go ahead and just check the eco here. Fez, it looked like, was at about 240 metal per second. It's kind of hard to tell because it's fluctuating. Yellow now moving in with this gunship attack. And guys, as long as yellow stays out of the flak, these gunships should be able to get a lot done. But he's got to know where the flak is located. There's lots of flak here. Blue with a nice bombing run. He won't quite get that Doomsday Machine. In fact, that didn't accomplish much of anything. He wasn't able to get the DDM. And there is a flak here, guys. Yellow's going to have to take this out almost immediately. Oh, Yellow, focus the flak. Focus the flak. He will get it, but that flak did so much, and there's 3 more flak here. Those gunships are going to get annihilated, so nice attempt by both blue and yellow to use some airplay, but guys, there were better targets. This northern area has almost no defense at all. At least the front here doesn't have much. I don't see any flaks. But yeah, bringing gunships into flak, not the greatest. Not the greatest use of your Air Force. But Stag Jr. here with some more penetrators. And this I do like to see. You can see the range on these things. Given enough time, these penetrators will take out these Goliaths and Sumos. But the problem is that Fez is now on T3 and pumping out Cerberus. However, with enough penetrators, you can still deal with Cerberus. But it will take a while. The Cerberus have a lot of health. However, each penetrator shot doing about 1/10 of its health. Or so. Maybe like 1/12. But yeah, each penetrator shot pretty powerful. And this first Cerberus probably will go down. Oh, nice. Stag bringing more penetrators into the front line. As again, these are just king of T2. Very strong indeed at this stage of the game. But I don't know, guys. At this point, Fez's eco is monstrous. Looks like he's making about 350 metal per second. No one else is even close to that. Of course, Fez does have 2 bases. He has Pink's old base. And Dark Green attempting to get something done here, but ultimately doesn't seem like it's going to achieve too much. However, again, I'm really, really liking Stag's composition. It's still a pretty close game, guys. The only problem is that Fez's eco is simply massive. And he is going to continue pumping out T3, and that is going to be a problem. For the Eastern team. But yeah, Stag's composition here is just amazing. Bulldogs in the front for some tanking and scouting. And then in the back we've got penetrators and Lugers. Kind of curious. 3 kills on this penetrator, 8 kills on that one, 3 kills on this one. But guys, yeah, these penetrators just kind of creating a zone of death. I mean, anything it feels like that enters into their range simply gets deleted from the game. Guys, I love seeing penetrators. The thing is, you don't see them that much because, like I said, they're expensive, and every shot they fire does consume a huge amount of energy. So it is a very high maintenance unit, and it's slow, and you have to micro them. You can't. You cannot just send penetrators in to do their own thing. However, Stag with some spots here, doing a great job of healing these penetrators, keeping them healthy. That is a really, really nice use of engineers. Guys, you also don't see that very much. You don't see players repairing their units very much, especially in these big team games where units are generally just kind of sent in to die without much of a second thought. Stag really doing a great job by keeping these penetrators healthy. And guys, as these penetrators get veterancy, they will get stronger as well. So very well played, but the problem is that Fez now has 3 Cerberus moving through the south, and though Stag is playing very well, his teammates haven't really been doing too much, to be honest. They could just be ecoing up, but I don't really see them contributing too much to the game right now. Yellow will bring in some rapiers, and gunships are, of course, very good defenders if there's no air defense. Right now there is no air defense, so Yellow has been doing a decent job of using these gunships reactively and pushing these attacks back, so I will give that to him. But guys, now that these toasters are here, the toasters will outrange all of Blue's army, and it will force Blue to retreat. Toasters are just an insane defense in escalation. They fire a volley of 3 shells And all three of those shells will simply deal devastating damage in a huge AoE, so it is really looking kind of bad for the Eastern team at this point. As Fez continues to pump out the Cerberus and the northern, or excuse me, the northeastern team doesn't seem to be doing much in response. For example, light blue just sending in cans to die like this, it's not. This is not helping your team. This is not helpful. So yeah, these situations can be very frustrating in team game, guys, when it feels like you're the only player doing anything. In these situations, it feels frustrating as you slowly lose because the other team seems to have an economic advantage and is pumping out T3, and your teammates are just kind of chilling, or it's sort of hard to tell what they're doing. But still, you know, Stag with these penetrators is sort of holding on for dear life, sort of him against the world. But even those are starting to die as he's not getting much support from his teammates. And now Fez with 3 Cerberus. Yellow going for an attack here with Widows. Of course, Widows are not the best against defense. But guys, these 5 ambushers, very nice. Generally, I wouldn't advise stacking them together like this. You would rather spread them out so they're not as vulnerable to AoE. But no, in general, these 5 ambushers, it's going to make it hard, but guys, the problem, Dark Green's composition here is just not, for this point in the game, it's just not really ideal. You know, it just doesn't really matter how many Zeuses and Fidos you make when the enemy team has this many Sumos and Goliaths and Cerberus. It's just a difficult situation. Yeah, it's a difficult situation to be in for the Eastern team. Yellow pumping out Talos, but guys, even Talos is not the right counter to what we're seeing here. Talos is not exactly the anti-mech counter. Juggernauts are much better. A Juggernaut would be pretty good against these Cerberus. They can outrange them and out DPS them as well. But yeah, Talos will simply walk into the range of the Cerberus and be annihilated in mere seconds. And now Fez with 5 Cerberus here at the front line. And with the the Eastern team not really building the right counters except for these penetrators. It's hard to know what's going to stop these Cerberus from simply walking through this northeast base and wreaking havoc. Guys, we don't really see Cerberus that much in escalation. I feel like it's a very underused unit. But the Cerberus is quite powerful. It's a very interesting... I'd be interested to know what the actual name of it is. They're called the Heavy Assault K-Bot. I'd say that's a pretty apt description. Blue attempting to use his commander here for a nice D-gun. He is cloaked. He will take out one there, but now his D-gun is on cooldown. But yeah, with that D-gun, I think they can hopefully push back this final Cerberus. But guys, I don't know. It's still a really rough situation for them to be in. They did ultimately push off that attack, but at what cost? The Eastern team really just not building the right counters. And, these Talos just not really what you need against Cerberus. They just melt. But guys, as I was saying about the Cerberus, it is a really nice... it's a really interesting unit because... sort of seems like a siege K-Bot. It has these 3 cannons, almost like a battleship, but its range isn't huge. So even though it has 3 like cannons that kind of make it look like some kind of walking mini battleship, the cannon range is rather short. So it really is meant to be in that close range scenario. And now Orange with some Talos and cans of his own to walk into Stag's base, and Stag is in a lot of trouble. His commander is here, cloaked again. He might try to get another D-gun. But guys, even if he gets an amazing D-gun here, and that was an amazing D-gun, I just don't think it's going to matter. His commander is going to get overwhelmed with firepower. And now Stag is out of the game. And with Stag out of the game, it is only a matter of time before the Eastern team will collapse. These Cerberus have been the MVP. They are... guys, again, I like the Cerberus a lot. It's one of those... units that you can just kind of right-click into the enemy base. You don't really need to micro them. There's not much to do. You can simply send them in, and they will demolish just about anything in their path. Of course, there are good counters to the Cerberus. They're by no means overpowered. In fact, we don't even see them that often. Core has a lot of great counters. The Juggernaut, for example, is a very nice counter to the Cerberus, can simply outrange it. Annihilators are good counters, if you have enough Doomsday machines. But again, the Eastern team just didn't build the right counters. They were just kind of mass-producing the very generalized army of things like Mortys and Cans and Fidos. Guys, you have to react to what your opponents are doing. Of course, air is also a decent counter to Cerberus because they have no air defense. Green bringing in some Vamps to take out these annoying gunships. But guys, this is what is so interesting about T3 in escalation. You could just kind of right-click into their base unless they have the right counters. And that is exactly what Fez has done. And at this point, it just feels a little bit hopeless. For the last three players here on the eastern side. Let's go ahead and speed it up. Again, with yellow, I'm a little frustrated that he only built Talos out of his T3 gantry this whole game. It's just it's an all-purpose unit, but it's just not the right counter to other mechs. The Talos is actually great against T2 units. Most T2 units it does fine against, but I mean, these Cerberus just shred them. Eat them for breakfast. Look how quickly these Talos fall. But guys, this is why I generally enjoy when I play escalation, or Pro TA for that matter. 1v1 or 2v2 is the most that I like to play. Every time I end up playing a big team game like this, I always regret it. Because if your teammates just aren't building, if they just don't understand the game very well, and they're just building all the wrong things, there's only so much you can do on your own. I mean, Stag played it really well and did the best that he could, for sure. But his teammates truly let him down. And even though it was 3v4, just didn't matter, man. Stag's teammates were just kind of in their own little worlds. But yeah, and in 1v1, obviously, it all depends on you. I mean, it's all you. But in a 2v2 with just one teammate, you can kind of... Do you see what I'm saying? Like with one teammate, you can give them advice. You can kind of direct them, say, build this or build that. But when you have 3 or 4 teammates, it's much harder to... You know what I'm saying? There's just... With that many people, it's hard to play the game for 4 people. You know what I mean? It's... In a 2v2, you can definitely... help your teammate, or give them advice. But the bigger the game gets, the harder it is to help your to direct your teammates, because there's just so much going on. And games like this, there's only so much you can do on your own. But yeah, not to take anything away from the Western team, they just played it better. They built the right units. Built the right counters. Even with those nice bombing runs early on from Blue, they they held on, and they did a nice push. Nice push around the beginning of the T2 phase that the Eastern team just wasn't ready for. The Eastern team had kind of stopped building units, and the Western team simply overwhelmed them with firepower there. Now, guys, Yellow has done a very sneaky thing, and he's hiding his commander behind that pillar. But they will find him, and guys, that will be the game. So, guys, this was a pretty good 4v4. Nice team game. I think the Eastern team definitely could have won if they had played it better. But after the Western team did that nice push near the mid game, it really put them behind, and they never really recovered. And overall, it was pretty well played, especially by Fez. Of course, Fez having the base of 2 players really helped, because now he has double the eco of anyone else. This kind of becomes its own dilemma. This is a bigger thing in FAF because in FAF, in one of the modes, this is Forge Alliance, when one of your teammates' commanders dies, instead of them disappearing, the highest player on the enemy team gets all their stuff, kind of like Fez did here. And the funny thing is, like, it actually, when that happens, it actually benefits the enemy team, because say you kill their commander thinking, oh, I did something good. Oh no, actually you just gave a really crappy player all of his stuff to the best player on their team, and now they're better off. And that's kind of what happened here. And in some ways, I wonder if Shockwave had stayed in the game, if the outcome would have been the same. But yeah, Fez having 2 bases, certainly an advantage. And ultimately, guys, that was a very good game. But I think the next one I'm going to cast is Protean. And as soon as I fix my computer, guys, I will cast some board games. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next cast.